Okay, so, all right, I'm going to continue on for what happened when I went into the foster home. I went into the foster home, the permanent foster home, I'm talking, the second one. And by that time, I was in high school. I never did return back to my home except one time to visit when I had a date for homecoming, and I went to show my siblings my dress and hair and stuff. Otherwise, I never did see my dad after that, except one time, another time I saw him. I pulled up for something, and it wasn't a good thing either. But there was never any really healing with me and my parents. And I didn't see my siblings as much as I wanted to, hardly at all, in fact, because I wasn't welcomed around the home, because I was considered the troublemaker, the one who busted out of the system, which I was considered that by the entire family, my dad's side, my mom's side. It was like no one really had anything nice to say to me other than, Dawn was a troublemaker. Well, that never really bothered me, I don't think, until I got older. But anyway, so I'm in the foster home. I'm starting high school. And what I started doing was I got into drugs. Not bad drugs, but I shouldn't have got into drugs. I was taking speed to begin my day and downers to end my day. And in between all that, I was getting high. I was doing it a lot. And I also got a job. Started waitressing, I worked at Taco Bell, and I held my jobs. And the reason that I did that is because I wanted things, because in my home, we never were allowed to have like shampoos and makeup and stuff like that. So to me, it was like I had this whole world to explore. And so I wanted a job because I wanted money. So I did that. I went to school and I worked. And then I also got my first boyfriend. My first boyfriend, as you can suspect, was a disaster. He was a beater. He was an alcoholic. I was, what was I, 15? 15? Yeah, 15, and he was like 21. So at that time, you could go into a bar at 18. Well, after I put some makeup on and stuff, I looked that. So I was in bars. I had given up the drugs. One day I woke up and decided that I needed to end what I was doing because I was not on a good path. So I quit cold turkey. I quit everything. And I went through the withdrawals. And I remember one time I was actually going through the withdrawals and my foster parents had come up in my room and asked me what the hell I was doing. And, I was laying on the floor thrashing around and everything. I never told them what I was doing or what I was going through. But I remember my foster mom looking at me and saying, oh, just leave her be. She just wants attention. It's like no one understood what the heck I was coming out of. And so I went through my withdrawals and I stopped. And after that moment, all I really ever did after that was have some drinks and get high. And I really was able to manage that. It didn't manage me. I managed it. I'm not saying that I didn't continue partying here and there, but it had no control over me. And graduated high school, ended up giving up my boyfriend. That was a struggle too, because he didn't want to let me go. And in the meantime, I had met my future husband, and I went down that path thinking I made a better choice. And so I ended up with Mr. Wonderful, graduated high school. And that was a big day for me, a very big day, because a few months before graduation, it was only like 3 or 4 months before I was to graduate, I had went to my principal and I had a breakdown and I was crying and I said, I can't continue. I have to drop out of school. And why I did that, I don't know. But I was in my own apartment, or not my own apartment. I was living with 2 other girls and paying rent and taking buses back and forth to school. I had 2 jobs and, trying to graduate and paying rent and all that. And it was just too much for me. And I went to the principal and I just broke down and told him I can't do this. I'm dropping out. And I just remember them taking the time to talk to me. And I don't really feel they understood the depth of what I was trying to say or what I was going through or coming out of. But what they said was enough for me to look at them and say, okay, I'll keep going. And I didn't drop out. So my graduation, and, looking back, that's a big burden to carry in high school. That makes me want to cry more than what my dad did to me. But just take a second. Trying to graduate, and I had to be at school at 7, and I worked till noon. I grabbed a bus, went to my first job, grabbed a taxi or another bus, went to my waitress job, would work there till, whatever, get home, go to bed, get up and do the same thing. And I was doing all this as an 18-year-old, and I think it all came to a head of what I was trying to do. And I look back and I was really alone. My mom and dad didn't give a crap. I was out of the foster home at that time. I really didn't ever share with friends what I was going through. My boyfriend really didn't understand. I mean, he was 18, had his own issues. So the day that I graduated was amazing. It was just amazing. And I remember walking down where you go to get ready to get your diploma. And I shed a few tears, and I was like, nobody really understands what I've gone through to get here. It wasn't college, but it was bigger than that for me. So it was a super awesome day. My mother-in-law at that time, not my mother-in-law, but she was the one who had a graduation party for me. My mom and them didn't do nothing, but they did come. My grandma came, my foster parents came, and I just remember feeling so proud of myself that day, because not just because I did it and I didn't drop out, but also because in my extended family, which is quite large, aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents, my mom, my dad, no one had graduated from high school. I was number one. And so it was like the hugest thing. I got to take a little break. Okay, let's try this. So anyway, I graduated and got jobs. That apartment I ended up leaving, and then I got into my own apartments, and ended up, I continued dating with Greg, and I never really picked up signs along that path that that wasn't a very healthy relationship either. And I didn't understand then, but I understand now that, there were signs that I should have, at the very least, I put a hold on that relationship until he made the changes he needed to make. But anyway, I ended up getting pregnant, of course, at the age of, I think I was almost 19. We ended up having what you call the shotgun wedding, got married, had no money, nothing. His mom and dad took care of that for us. I thought at the time that I made good choices. And, maybe I did. I don't know. Like I said, I don't like, in a previous video, I don't like saying negative things because I think I'm past all that. But anyway, so we get married. My little boy was born, Jason. Everybody was in love because that was the first grandbaby on both sides. Weirdly, I let Jason go with my mom and dad, which looking back, I don't understand that. But they never harmed him. They didn't watch him all that much. But for some odd reason, which I don't understand either, they truly loved him and they truly enjoyed him. And I don't know where that came from, considering what they did to the 8 of us. But I have pictures of him coming home after their visits, and the boy was just wiped out, and he was so loved. My dad absolutely loved him. And so anyway, went on and had my other kids, and ended up with 5. I had a miscarriage in between there. And just moseyed on through life. I had a lot of problems with Greg. I didn't really understand why or where it was coming from. I didn't feel like I was suffering from what I went through with my childhood. But now that I'm older, I can piece it all together. And I got to add, during all this time and all these years, I was in therapy. I would go here and there. It wasn't like, every day, or I mean, not every day, but every week. But I was in therapy pretty consistently ever since I had left my home at the age of 15. And then I went into therapy thinking, my marriage, what was I doing wrong in my marriage? And years later, I finally pieced it all together that, I married a man with his issues that he didn't resolve from his childhood. None of this was me. It was him. And I didn't handle it right because I didn't know how to handle it right, because I hadn't fully healed from what was done to me. So my marriage, when I say it was hard, and it all goes back to how I grew up. And I have a very high tolerance for pain, mistreatment. I don't know, just I have a very high tolerance. That high tolerance, a lot of people would think is a plus. I've learned finally at the age I'm at, it's not a gift. It's not a blessing, because I think high tolerance, what it does is it sets us up for lifelong suffering. And I do believe that a lot of the suffering I've done is because I have such a high tolerance of, maybe it is abuse. I don't know. Well, it has to be. So anyway, my marriage suffered greatly from my childhood. I need to stick to one topic. But through all these years and all the therapy and all the work I've done, the one thing that I think that stuck with me is I didn't want to remain a victim of my childhood. I didn't want to remain a victim of my parents. I didn't want to be a victim of my husband anymore. I wanted to be whole and healed as much as I could be. I also believe when you've been abused as intense and as much as we were as children, you will never fully recover. You just can't, because your mind and everything was messed with during your formative years. So I consider myself, I like to say I walk with a limp. A lot of stuff I feel like was killed in me, or at the very least put on hold while I was growing up because of what was done. Like, for instance, I'm a very creative person. I like to create, and that was squashed. I used to play the flute. Well, to be cruel, my dad took the flute away and wouldn't let me play anymore. I was good. I was very good at the flute. I was very good at basketball. And I'm talking to the point where maybe I might have went somewhere in life with these, as my brother too was excelled in basketball, had the height, everything for it. My dad pulled him out. So my dad was cruel in those ways too. And it squashed our creativity. Like my brother ended up too. He faltered, and he has never really picked himself up. I think I would have went into, God only knows, but I had not just a creative spirit, but I also liked educational things. I liked learning. And I wanted to be, at that time, they called them candy stripers. I think they're just nurses' aides now. But when I was growing up, they were called candy stripers. And I remember I fought so hard. You had to be, it was either the age, I think it was 14, you could be a candy striper. And you got these red and white little dresses. And I couldn't wait to turn 14 to be this. And of course, my mom and dad kept saying, yeah, you can do it, you can do it. It's all volunteer, you didn't get paid. And I got that age, I got that dress. And then my dad refused to allow me to do it. And I remember that just the pain of that. Those things far outweigh what he did to me sexually. That was a big one. Didn't allow me to work unless, I was babysitting while they went out drinking. But he did that to all 8 of us. He squashed our spirits. And I think at this age that I'm at now, you don't ever fully recover from those things. And I'm telling you, I've been in therapy a lot. And I just recently ended it because my therapist ended that part of his career. So I'm out again. But I still have these weirdnesses. For the most part, I think I'm healed. And my creative spirit is back at play. And I'm doing a lot of really awesome things. And I feel like almost like I wish God would give me a second life, because I finally figured out what I like, who I am, what I'll tolerate, what I won't tolerate, and I'm almost ready for the damn grave. So it's weird. But anyway, I want to say, if you've been abused or neglected, or you are in that situation, somehow you have got to dig deep inside of you and realize that you are bigger than your perpetrator. You are more than that. You consist more of what was done to you. That time period, like I like to think of, okay, my dad molested me sexually for 1.5 years. The abuse part and the neglect part was far longer, but the sexual part was about 1.5 years. And in that picture that I posted with the green dress, that's about the time that it was going on. And he took that time from me. I didn't want to give him any more than that. And when I left my home, I remember thinking the same way about my mom and my dad. They were cruel. They were sadistic in a lot of ways. And I was like, when I walked out of there and I went into that foster home and I went and started buying makeup and I went and started getting my hair cut and I went and started taking care of myself and I developed into what I think was a pretty attractive young lady, my attitude all along was, I'm done with them messing with my mind. I'm on a journey now, and it took me a long time to get to, and like I said, I'm still fully not healed and I never will be, but I feel like I didn't let my mom and dad hold me back. And I look at my siblings and I'd say that out of the 8 of us, my mom and dad were successful in holding them back. There's so much trauma and pain in my brothers and sisters' lives, and a lot of drinking, a lot of alcoholism, abandonment of children, unable to keep jobs, they're cruel, they're mean. They just weren't ever able to reclaim their lives. So I'm gonna stop this video on that thing and on these thoughts. You will walk with a limp, and that's okay. But you can get better. You can overcome it. You have to want better. You deserve better. You are more than that time that you were messed with. None of this was your fault. I don't care what was done, how it was done. It's never our fault. We were children. So even if someone says, well, you enticed it, or you wanted it, or you went after it, it doesn't matter, because no one's going to really understand this except a child that's been abused and is now an adult. But sex isn't something that feels bad. Sex is something that feels good. So even as a child, if you end up having to go through that and then you seek it from that person, it still doesn't make you wrong or guilty, because it's not something that, it's not like you got the crap beat out of you and that hurts. So if that makes sense. So somehow shed off the guilt, shed off that time, and look toward a future. You deserve the best. Find yourself where you were when that person started messing with you. Go back to that. Seek out the path that you were on. What did you like? What did you want to do? What were your goals in life? Find that child again. I mean, I did some weird things in my younger years as I recovered. Like, I remember for a time period, I was buying all these Barbies, and I was in my 30s. And I made the excuse that I was buying them for my grandchildren. I was really buying them for me, because when my dad started messing with me, I was heavy into Barbie. And that interrupted my Barbie time. And then they ended up taking my Barbie stuff away from me. So when I got into my 30s, I know what I was doing now. I was trying to recover that time. And so I bought all this Barbie. So I had everything. And my granddaughters sure enjoyed the heck of it. But I did too. And that's okay to go back and do those things and seek out the things that were taken away from you so cruelly when you were a child. I really don't know what else to say other than those things. I encourage you, if you have a faith, dig deep into your faith. Know that that person took that time, but that don't give them any more. Don't give them any more. And if you have any questions or thoughts, please leave them in the comments. And I hope that this will help somebody. My purpose in doing YouTube is that my life experiences will help someone, help them be a better person, have a better life. Know that you're not alone. That is one of the biggest things that helped me as I got older. When I started going into my therapy and I would hear, you were abused? Oh my God, so was I, my uncle or my grandpa. And then I remember one time thinking, holy crap, it's like a ship of us out here. I'm not the only one in this boat. For some odd reason, that really helped me when I learned that this boat is full. It's full of not just little girls, little boys, babies, Some of them didn't make it out alive. Some of us did, but we're broken. So it really, really helped for me to know that I wasn't sitting in that boat by myself, because for some reason I thought I was. So anyway, again, if you have any thoughts or questions, please leave them in the comments. Please share my video if you think someone could benefit from it. Subscribe, and I will think of what I'm going to talk about next, or if I need to go more into my childhood or whatever. But I think I'll go into my marriage next, because that ties into childhood too. Have a great day.